Hi, everybody. Welcome to Dive Deep. I'm Shelby Cornett, and I'm the ministry assistant at Cambridge City Christian Church. And this is Danny.
Hey, Shelby, how are you?
Fantastic. How are you?
Wow, that was vigorous. That was...
Yeah. I need to try to come up with a different word every time you ask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like Shelby's word of the week.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what is your word of the week this week?
Fantastic.
Fantastic, yeah.
Wondermiss.
Is that even a word?
Sure.
Wondermiss? I've never heard of that word.
I don't know. I say it sometimes.
Mm.
And my dad says it, I think.
Hmm. Well, who am I to argue with your dad, right?
Yeah.
And his
made-up words.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, maybe it is a word. I don't know.
I don't know. I just say it. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe I'll have to add that to my vocabulary
There you
now.
go.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I'm Wondermiss. How are you?
I'm good.
Oh, no, fantastic. That's
Yeah,
my word.
fantastic. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. You know, we're moving along here through the book of Mark.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a good series.
True family.
True family.
This week.
Mm-hmm.
So my first note this week was when I was younger and somebody asked what family meant, I would have just said like my blood family.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as I've become an adult, that's changed. Like
Mhm.
I have friends that I would call
Right.
family and
Yeah.
now church family. And
Well, I mean, when you're younger, you just rely on your mom and dad and maybe some other immediate family members for your care, right? So,
Right.
So that's pretty much the limit of your world.
yeah.
And then as you get into elementary school, your world starts to widen a little bit. And then obviously by middle and high school, it really widens.
And when you're an adult, you're on your own.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you don't depend on
Right. Right.
your immediate family.
Yeah. So you have other people that really you kind of consider family. You might call them friends, but in some ways you're closer to them maybe even than your own family in ways. So, yeah, it does kind of shift a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I do think, though, one thing I have noticed. So, I don't know if this is an advantage or a disadvantage, but for me, coming from somewhere else, you know, I've lived here now for 18 years, but I've lived in other places before coming here. I've noticed in our own community, and I don't think it's just pertaining to Cambridge City or Western Wayne County. I think anybody throughout the country to some degree can see this, but I think especially in small towns, you know, family, that blood family thing it's a very strong bond. And while that's all good and all, I think Jesus kind of challenges that, because you have to remember when Jesus is teaching in this week as we were going through Mark 3, he's teaching in small towns. Most of the areas that Jesus taught in were small. I mean, even when he went to Jerusalem, by our standards today, Jerusalem would be considered small. I mean, it was probably about like the size of like a Richmond or a Muncie, which is big, but it's not like humongous like a New York City or even an Indianapolis or something. And so Jesus understood this whole blood connection thing. And so he's really upsetting the turnip cart or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
You know, by saying what he says in this passage.
He's pushing against it.
Yeah, yeah. And I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself here saying this, but I mean, like, he talks about you know, that his family, anybody that obeys God with him is his mother and his brother and his sister. So it's a challenging little passage here, especially I think for people living in a smaller community with really close blood ties.
And your blood family and your, how do I want to word it? Your Christian family.
Your Jesus family.
Your Jesus family. They can be the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's different.
Yeah.
Different.
So yeah, I mean, your blood family can also be your Jesus family if everybody's, you know, accepted Christ and follow after him. But that's not the case for everybody. Some families don't have others. Maybe even a person might be by themselves in their walk with Christ. So Jesus here is really saying, okay, that's great. You got a blood family, but your true family, your real family, the family that's going to be with you for eternity is your Jesus family. Yeah.
The part of the passage where Jesus is mom and brothers
Yeah, yeah.
came to get him.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, can you imagine being Jesus's sibling?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked a little bit about that
Yeah.
Sunday. Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah. We had an interesting discussion in our life group Sunday, and something that I had never thought of before. This is kind of a little bit of an aside, but not really. Is you've got Mary, who at this point we are pretty certain she was a kind of like a single mom. We think Joseph had already passed away by this point, because there's no record of him really outside of the birth account of Jesus. We really don't hear anything more about him, so we don't know when and how that happened. So she's a single mom, but you got to remember these siblings that came with her were probably adults too by
Right.
this point. Although we don't know that for sure. I mean, we don't know. We know Jesus was the oldest child because Mary was a virgin. So he was the oldest. So we don't know exactly how old these siblings were. They could have been similar in his age because at this point he's probably in his early 30s. So they could have been maybe late 20s, but maybe if she had them later, they could have been teenagers. We don't know.
Right.
But something we were talking about in group is that these, at this point, if they were like in their upper 20s, they probably had kids.
Yeah.
So Jesus didn't have any children, but because he was never married and had kids, but his siblings could have been. And so we were kind of joking
Uncle
around.
Jesus.
That's what we were saying. We were saying, wouldn't that be like kind of strange, like you're going to a family dinner maybe for Passover or something,
Yeah.
and here's Jesus, and it's Uncle Jesus, and everybody, at the table would be kind of like,
Yeah, my uncle's God.
yeah, yeah, it had to be interesting. So
Yeah.
kind of getting back to what you're saying,
That was
it was a weird dynamic, no doubt.
I would feel so small.
Yeah, yeah,
Like yeah, he's perfect.
yeah. But you know what though? In this at this point, I don't know that they
They
fully
didn't feel
viewed him
that-
that
yeah.
way. Like
Yeah.
they still just saw him as Jesus, and so
Just Uncle Jesus.
yeah, and Mary obviously knew there was more to it. She
Yeah.
had been visited by the angel, and and became pregnant and still a virgin. So I mean, she knew, but I've got this feeling that what happened was they had a meeting, and again, this isn't in the Bible, so please don't. This is in
This
the
is
book of
Danny's
Danny,
theory.
the book of Danny, which is
Yeah.
not by any means in the Bible. And I think that they kind of got tired of hearing some of the stuff that was going on, thinking it was going to make their family look bad. So they go to Mary. I'm not sure that Mary probably wanted to do this, but she kind of got drug along by the rest of them.
Right.
And so they come down to this place where Jesus was, and they call for him to come out to them. And, well,
I wonder if anybody in his family at any point was like, did that really happen? Like
like what?
Like, doubt him, like Mary being a virgin and him.
oh, yeah. I mean, I would guess so if they're confronting him here in this
Right.
moment.
If
yeah.
they were just, yeah, right, whatever.
Yeah. I don't know that through the years. I mean, obviously, I knew Jesus had brothers. I know that Jesus, obviously his mom and Joseph. I knew all that, but I never really deeply considered the family dynamics that were going on. And this passage definitely brings it out into the open as to what's happening.
Yeah.
And it says in verse 32, they told him, "Hey, your mom and your brothers are outside looking for you." So he probably knew,
Uh-oh.
yeah, this isn't good. Why are they all here?
Yeah.
Trying to come out. So it's an interesting dynamic, to say
Yeah.
the least here.
I like that he said though that his mother and his brothers were in the room. Like
Yeah.
like that was his family too.
Yeah, so there's two different perspectives. This was something because of time and whatnot I couldn't really dive into on Sunday, but there's kind of two perspectives here, right? So you have how do you feel if you're Mary and the brothers and you hear Jesus say that?
You'd probably be offended.
Yeah, like
Betrayed.
yeah. And then how do you feel if you're one of the people in the room?
Then you feel really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you kind of have these two different feelings from that statement. And something that like I said, I didn't point out. If you notice here, I don't think it's an accident. I think Mark is trying to point something out here as he writes this. no, we notice that his physical family is on the outside. His spiritual family is on the inside. So what does that tell us? Just by the proximity of the people next to Jesus, who are the ones that he prioritizes?
Right. The one, his spiritual family.
His spiritual family. Yeah. And so that's an example to us. Again, we say this, I think, every podcast, but if Jesus is Lord, if he's our master, if we, I was talking with somebody this week, there's passages in the New Testament that say that we're not just a servant of Jesus, that we're slaves of Jesus. Okay? If we're truly slaves of Jesus, that means we do what he does and what he says.
Right.
And so what he is saying here is that spiritual family is more important than our blood family. Not to say that our blood family isn't important,
Right.
but there's a priority here.
When you said at the end, the family shares experiences, interests, obedience, goals.
Yeah.
We go through things, good and bad, like these with our blood family too.
Right.
But the way we look at them
It's very
and
different.
the way we deal with them,
Right.
our spiritual family is going to be able to connect with us more on that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, if I look here at what what you're talking about there. So we talked about experiences. So blood family, we have experiences with our blood family. Obviously, we do things together and whatnot. But when you experience something with others, with God in the middle of that,
It's completely different.
it's completely different. Yeah, it's more, I guess, meaningful. It's deeper. It's more profound because God's in the mix.
Right.
God's there. So those experiences pull us together in a tighter way. Now, obviously, if our blood family are also Christians,
Right.
it's kind of the icing, on the cake kind of a thing. You're getting
Yeah.
both, but yeah, it's the spiritual aspect. I mean, we talked about interests. So our interests as Christians, as Christ followers, are going to be different than our blood family who isn't a Christ follower.
Right.
We talked about obedience. So we're going to obey God, whereas obviously they wouldn't really see the need to do that. So there is a big difference going on here that maybe we kind of overlook. And I think we kind of do that with our blood families. We think, well, okay, yeah, but they're my blood family, and we give them the priority. Which, again, I'm not saying at all that we. I know I've said it several times, but I'm not saying that we just dump our blood family and just follow Jesus, and that's not at all what Jesus was saying. But we do tend to get a little bit more tighter with our blood family than our spiritual family, and I'm not sure that's correct.
Right.
I will say what I've seen through the years, and I guess I don't know if this is an advantage or a disadvantage for me since I've been away from my blood family like on a day-to-day basis for 18 years. But I do feel like there's a lot of family worship, like I'm not saying that you sing hymns and bow down to your family, but remember, worship isn't so. I mean, yeah, it involves those things before God, but worship is also your time and your priorities. A God is who you give the highest love to, and I think a lot of people give the highest love to their families, even more so to God,
Right.
and then especially to your Jesus family. You know? So Jesus is kind of flying in the face of that, and it caused a kerfluffle there, and that's why his siblings, they were tired of the kerfuffling.
Even Jesus had family drama.
Yeah. It kind of gives us maybe a little hope, right? when we have family drama.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Even if you're perfect.
Yep. Well, the thing is that there was a part of his family that wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
And
your spiritual family is not perfect either.
No, it's not. It's not. And I think that's why a lot of people...
We are still people.
One of the things that's so disappointing to me that I've seen throughout the years in ministry as a pastor is people giving up on their church family. Like, they get mad about the dumbest little thing. I'm just going to be flat out. I'm just going to say it. I mean, I know of people even that's left our church through the years over some things that I find out later. I'm like, seriously? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And then we talk about forgiveness, and we talk about working out conflict.
And you're not demonstrating any
And
of
then the
those
church
things.
doesn't demonstrate it. And then we wonder why. I'm starting to get on my preaching mode here, so I'll back off a little. But then we
Here's the
want,
book of Danny again.
that's right. But then we wonder why the culture doesn't take us seriously.
Yeah.
Because we don't take ourselves seriously.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we get mad about the dumbest little thing and we leave, and the culture's like,
And
well,
that's
there's no difference between me and my fight with my uncle on that. I mean, they're just like we are.
yeah.
So what's so special
And
about
that's
them?
prioritizing yourself too
Yes.
over
Yes. Yes.
what you're here for.
Yes. And I'm not saying that there aren't situations where, you know, if a family like just with a blood family, there's certain situations where it's understandable. You know, it's not what you want, but it's understandable that you might split from your blood family if there's abuse. You know, whether that's sexual, physical, mental, verbal. You know, that's and the same thing can happen in the church. I mean, if people are abusing each other, like abuse, I mean, like
Right.
real abuse, not a disagreement.
Not
There's,
they hurt my feelings.
right, yeah. If there's real abuse going on, or if they're not preaching the word of God,
If things are unbiblical.
unbiblical, exactly, yeah. There's a place for that, but 90% of the time, people leave for unbiblical reasons. They don't like the music, or they don't like this person, or those are not biblical reasons to leave a church.
Yeah.
And so when I see this story, you know, Jesus really brings that out to the forefront, that our church family, it's not just important, it's most important. We got to fight it out together, right?
Yeah.
We got to stick it out together. So
I put prioritize with the squiggly line and stars and everything.
Yeah. Priorities.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way it is in life. What's most
Yep.
important to you. So I honestly do believe one of the reasons, and I know I'm kind of getting into church growth or lack thereof type of issues, but I do think one of the reasons the church in America is declining is because the church doesn't take itself seriously. Like, it's not a priority.
Right.
Like, okay, if I've got this or I've got this time with my church family, I'm going to pick this. Well, then why should the world take the church seriously if the
Right.
church isn't going to take itself seriously? So it's that Jesus really hammers that home, I think, here in this little interaction
Yeah.
that we see. So, yeah.
And I told you this morning, but my blood family got in the way Sunday.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So one of the points, I talked about is, and we see that here with, what was it? I think I said in the first two verses, 31 and 32 of chapter 3 of Mark. The family came in to try to get him out of there. Like, come on, actually, the idea there is that they were coming to take custody of him.
Yeah.
Kind of like an intervention, right? Like, we're going to take you and get you the help that you need, Jesus.
Right.
And how family can get in the way of our walk with God. And then
My kids took me to preschool.
yeah,
Church
because
Sunday.
they started crying, and you had
So I opened my phone to watch the live stream, and it said, like, family can sometimes get in the way. I'm like, well,
your kids kind of illustrated that for you this week. Yeah.
yeah, they did.
I mean, obviously that's wasn't kind of what I was in, but
Right.
but sometimes our family does. Like we place such a high priority on our family that it neglects God's
Yeah.
family.
And I know we've talked about this in the office and even on the podcast, but like as kids get older, people prioritize their kids' sports and
Yeah.
their kids'
Yeah.
school
Yeah.
stuff. And
Yeah.
not that stuff isn't important.
Right. No.
But
And that's not, again, that's not what Jesus is saying.
it's like
He's not saying not to do those
their
things.
top priority.
He's saying what comes first
Right.
and who comes first. So, yeah.
So good talk.
Good talk.
Yep.
All right.
What's next week?
So I'm trying to think. It's a good question. I haven't jumped into my passage this week yet. I'm running very behind. I was trying to get some lessons done. What are we? We are talking about. My mind's gone
hold
blank. I looked through the stuff last week and I'm losing it.
I don't know
But
what it is.
but there was something else I want before we do that. There was something else I wanted to talk about. So what do you do if people in your family aren't Christ followers? Like, they don't believe in the priority of church. They don't see that. I shared a little bit of some things, some steps that you have to kind of, or some mindsets that you kind of got to have
Mm-hmm.
in order to deal with that. And one of the things is I talked about facing the reality of that.
Yeah.
We have to understand that some people are never going to understand our devotion to Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Some people in our own family, they might think that we're weird or whatever. That's just comes with the territory of following
Yeah.
Jesus. And that's kind of what happened to Jesus, right? His family thought he was a little off his rocker with what he was doing. So we have to be comfortable as Christ followers in facing the reality that can come with our family sometimes. We also talked about accepting it and realizing that some people are going to disagree with us.
Mm-hmm.
And to be very careful with that. Sometimes we get into these preachy attitudes where we feel like we got to force our faith down people's throats. Do we share our faith? Yes. But we look for the opportunities that are more constructive and more and always filled with love and grace.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have to accept that.
There's a right way.
Yeah, we accept. And then what do? We adjust to it. So through the way we live our life, those people that don't want Christ, we pray for them. We show Jesus, but we adjust to that lifestyle. And that doesn't mean that you're happy with it. That doesn't mean you're happy with where they're at. But you pray for them and you adjust to that, showing Jesus to those who have not given their life to Him yet. So I wanted to make sure we touched on that before we talked about next time. So what do we say next time? That's right. Yeah, blessed by what you're blessed. We're going to be talking about how do we touch the lives of other people. You know, we've been given so much, and we're coming into this time of year of Thanksgiving where we think about it a lot. Although some people have already put up their Christmas trees and they're not thinking about Thanksgiving, those evildoers.
I'll think about Thanksgiving on Thanksgiving.
But just on Thanksgiving, that's the only day you're thankful.
I'm thankful all year, but
Are you really?
I'll celebrate
you put
it
your
on-
Christmas tree up.
Yeah, I'm celebrating.
This is the
Okay.
season of thanks right now, but you've put your it's
If-
like you just want to skip it.
If people say they have a birth month, Jesus can have two.
Wow, really hard to argue with that.
A lot of
logic.
people say they have a birth month. I don't. I'm not one of those people.
But yet you put up the tree in, what, August?
I waited. No, it was November.
Okay, so anyway,
Jesus can have the whole year. I could leave it up all year.
yeah, you could, and then you would be that person in your neighborhood.
That's okay.
But we're not worried about fitting in with the world, right?
No, we're not.
So, okay,
I'm prioritizing Jesus. Didn't we not just talk about that?
that's true. Boy, that always hurts when
So really,
when somebody takes your own words and
all you people hating on me for putting my Christmas tree up, you're falling behind.
oh, okay.
You're not prioritizing
so,
Jesus.
So you're the real spiritual person, right? And
I
we're
am,
all,
because
huh? Yeah, that's it. She is a Pharisee, isn't she? Yeah, that's what the Pharisees would have done. They would have put their tree up and said, "Hey, everybody, look at us. We're more spiritual because we put our tree up
Yeah.
already."
When's she going to put her little phylacteries on her shoulder?
Yeah. You should be wearing like things about Christmas to show how holy you are.
I wore a Christmas sweater the other day.
Oh, okay. Well, good job.
Said Merry Christmas.
Good job, you Pharisee. But anyway, this time of year, we're supposed to be thinking about thankfulness, and we've been given a lot of things to be thankful for.
You can be
and-
thankful
how do
for
we-
Jesus' birth.
Okay. You can give it up, Shelby. Okay.
I'm determined to win this.
You're going to fit this in somehow, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sure you're going to hear more of this discussion over the weeks ahead. But anyway,
Merry Christmas.
we're going to be looking at that, this whole idea of how we can take the gratitude we have in our own hearts and then use that to toward others. So, yeah.
See what Uncle Jesus is doing next
Uncle
week.
Jesus. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I never thought of Jesus
like
like
it.
that before, but yeah, I mean, that would be an interesting Thanksgiving to sit down with Uncle
Yeah, it
Jesus,
would.
wouldn't
Be
So,
on your
like-
best behavior.
Like you would sit there and say, "Thank you, Uncle Jesus, for creating the world," and thank you. I mean, all these things that you would never say to anybody else. So,
It would
Yeah.
the whole Thanksgiving meal. You would just have to thank Uncle Jesus
yeah,
for everything.
right. Like,
It would just last
like-
the whole.
thank you, Uncle Jesus, for this turkey and for the. It'd be like
Yeah.
everything. Yeah, interesting. Wow, Uncle Jesus. All right.
Crazy. All right. So next week we'll continue the Mark series with blessed by
Blessed by what you're blessed.
blessed
yeah.
by what you're blessed. Merry Christmas.